Okay, good morning. So we're doing today, Mitzvah Hashem, Siman Reish Ayin Daled, which deals with Lechem Mishna, how to be Boitzeh, the past, how to cut and break open the bread on Shabbos, and the dinim of Lechem Mishna. Says the Mechaber in Sif Aleph, Boitzeh al Shtei Kikaris Shlemus, adds the brackets, that you cut two loaves, i.e. you have Lechem Mishna. You hold both of them at the time of making the bracha, and you cut open the bottom one. V'dafka belel Shabbos, adds the Ramah. When do you do the lower one? Dafka on Friday night. Avol b'yom Shabbos or belel Yontov. Here we go. That's in Yom Diyoma. But on Shabbos morning or on Yontov evening, you actually cut the upper challah. V'atam hu al derech Kabbalah. And the reason why you do it this way round, why on the Friday night you do the lower one, and then Shabbos morning on Yontov you do the upper one, al derech Kabbalah. Okay, says the Mishna Berurah. Shtei kikaris. Zecher lamon. Why do we have Lechem Mishna? Why do we have two challahs? Zecher lamon dichsiv lok to Lechem Mishna, that you take Lechem Mishna. Now, interesting footnote number one. V'kika she'ein roi lachila. Now, what if you got a challah, the second challah that you use? What if it's not roi lachila? Either machmas asurim ikadin. It's tevel, or it's you haven't separated challah or something like that. Das hagonim nissen karelitz. This is footnote number one. She'enam mitzarefes lechem mishna. If you can't eat one of those two loaves of bread, one of those two challahs, then it doesn't help you for Lechem Mishna. To show the plentifulness, the bounty of your meal. I've got two loaves of bread to start the meal. And therefore, if the second one can't be eaten, that doesn't demonstrate the chashivas, the importance, the bounty that you have. It's if it's a piece of wood, and it doesn't help you. Jump to the next. I've always wondered about this. What if you've got let's say a challah, and then you think, oh boy, I haven't got Lechem Mishna, but I've got a challah in the freezer. Are you allowed to use a frozen challah for Lechem Mishna? So if you jump to fourth paragraph in footnote number one, v'kika kafua, a frozen loaf, she'ef she'la'ochla machmas kain, you can't eat it because it's frozen. Kosu b'shar shuvas minchas yitzchak, she'yesh lahokel she'mistarefes Lechem Mishna. You can be makel to use it for Lechem Mishna, kivin she'ruya lachila below shem tikun. You don't need to do anything, you just got to wait. And therefore it's okay. V'gam ruya lechama miyad ba'ifin hamut v'shabbos, and you can, in a hetetic way, you can heat it up on Shabbos. You can put it on top of the urn or whatever it is. V'chein das hagorim nissen karelitz. V'taima mishum shalidei hatchak ef shelechel es alechem af ba'ida kafu, because you can alidei hatchak. You can eat it if it was frozen and if it is somewhat edible. U'mi'idach, however, next paragraph. Das hagorim shlomo zalman Orach sheyitein shebeshas alechem ein roi lachila ein mitzaref. He is of the opinion that if it's frozen, it doesn't help you. Ach, now here comes the important ach. Im daite laharich mesuda at shalechem yaspik lahavshe v'yeh roi lachila. If you're going to eat and your meal is going to take an hour, and by that time the challah would have defrosted, then yochel istaref lechem Mishna.
So it has to leave it out?
No. If it could be, let's say you're about to eat the meal. I see. Do you have to leave it out? Mistoma, what do you think? No, I don't know. If
it's got chashivas.
Yeah.
You do it.
Yeah, it's a good question. Do you actually have to leave it out? I guess they're on the side of caution and leave it out. But the point is that, first of all, there are matirim, because it's actually roi lachila, and therefore you can use it for Lechem Mishna, and it's possibly edible even in a raw state, like we said. However, the Rosh Hashanah says not, but if your meal is going to be long enough that it would defrost in that time, then it's roi Lechem Mishna. Okay, that's a useful footnote to know. Okay, let's carry on. Back to the Mishnah Berurah, the first line. V'gam b'yontov tzorech liftzei al shtei kikaros. Very interesting. Also on Yontov, you need to have Lechem Mishna, right? Halacha l'maisa tonight in Mitzvah Hashem. Footnote number two. What is that about? V'chein kos v'shulchan aruch lekamon v'tam adova. The reason why you need Lechem Mishna on Yontov, shegam b'yontov lo hoya yerid mon. On Yontov as well, there was no mon. Ela hoya yerid me'erev Yontov kaflaim. You had a double portion that fell in Erev Yontov. Today we wake up in the midbar. You'd have double portion of mon. K'may be'erev Shabbos va'af shegam chiyuv gimel sudas b'Shabbos nilmud me'amon. Even though we learn out the chiyuv of shalosh sudas from the mon, me'asmachta shem shalosh pa'im hayom, as it says the word hayom 3 times. V'afal pikein ein chiyuv zeh noy b'yontov. Nevertheless, there's no, notwithstanding the fact that there is no shalosh sudas on yontov, Bia Prisha Shekivin She HaPosuk Hayom Nem Legabe Shabbos, because the Hayom Posuk is referring to Shabbos, therefore there's a Chiv Gimel Sudas on Shabbos. Lochein Leneg, but beyond the Chiv Gimel Sudas, which is learned from this Posuk. However, Av Chiv Lechem Mishna Hu Zeichel Amon Shehoya Yered Zugos Zugos V'Af Berev Yontav Hoya Yered Kain. So you see that there is a Chiv of Lechem Mishna even on Yontav. Amazing in Yonah D'Yoma. The Dirshu coincidence, as it were. Okay, good. V'gam hanoshim mechuyavas belechem Mishna. Women are also mechuyav in Lechem Mishna. Shegam kain b'neis hamon. They were also, of course, involved in the nace of the mon, and therefore a woman is also obligated in Lechem Mishna on Shabbos and on Yontov. Can you use mezonos? So, for example, you have a chocolate croissant as opposed to a slice of cake or something. Ayin le'el b'simen kuf sameches siv zayin shal Mishna Berurah b'halacha. Okay, shleimus. Now this is a very interesting one. How sholem does your Lechem Mishna have to be? Sometimes you have bits broken off the Lechem Mishna, or you have, sometimes you have the label from the Israeli bakeries. They have the label stamped onto the challah, and if you want to peel that off, does that break the shleimus? So let's take a look. If you've got a loaf of bread which is burnt a little, and you haven't cut it off, there are those who say that actually it's fine for Lechem Mishna purposes, it's complete, it's just that it's burnt in one place. And if a person hasn't got a whole loaf, a whole challah, then einam akiv. If Rachon Eslan, I'm reading now the Klausenberger Rebbe, his experiences in the camp. If you had a piece of bread, he would keep it for Shabbos and he'd make kiddush on it. And if you haven't got, you haven't got. So if you got a slice of bread, it's shaykh to make and to wash, and it's not ma'akiv. You don't not wash because you haven't got Lechem Mishna. And you can even make a kiddush on a kazayis of bread. Very important when the person is making the bracha of Hamotzi, he should have in mind Kol HaMesubim, V'gam Yoimela HaMesubim Sheyichav L'Lozis B'Rechos. And the people sitting around the table should also have in mind to be Yotze the bracha, because they should Kulam Yotze B'Lechem Mishna, that everyone is Yotze, not just the bracha, but also Lechem Mishna. Or Cheshemoitzi Acherim Yoimar B'Shus Rabboisai. He should say that Nusuch B'Shus Rabboisai. So I got, even though he's the balabayis, or if he's the greatest person there, for whom it's an anova to say, I'm doing this with your permission. They say the Chazon Ish wouldn't actually say b'rishus, but he would just look around as if to show like I'm being mitzi sort of thing. Okay, let's just take a look at footnote number 3. So, the question is, how sholem does the pas have to be? So, footnote number 3, upas shleima shenoflu mimena chatichas matas upurim. What if you've got a challah and a little bit is chopped, is sort of chipped away, or some crumbs come away from it? Das hagon Shlem Zalman Auerbach sheminag ha'olam lakachta b'kikar sholem. The minhag is to take a loaf of bread. That's just how it goes. Some challahs will be a little bit broken in parts, and that's not a problem. If it's not fully complete, that's an interesting rule, that so long as only less than 1/48 is missing, then it's got a din of sholim. It's useful to know. Okay? V'chein im nofel ma'at mehakrum ha'elyoin k'meshiroga b'chalas ha'kaniknas b'chanos. If you've got a sort of a baked challah from a store, from a shop, often some of the crust has been moved away, especially if you got there late in the day. Then if that's the case, that's not a problem. Huva b'shem agon Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, the disciple Rabbi Yaakov Yisrael Kanievsky, shelo higbid al kach. We're not particularly worried about that. Okay, I'll just show you something interesting. With regard to, let me just quickly find it because I've got to save it on my phone. With regard to the bakery label on the challah, so there's a footnote in Shmir Shabbos Kilchasai. he says the following. They put a label on the challah. First of all, you should only take it off somach lachila, just because of boire problems. You shouldn't take it off too soon because you're literally taking away the bad from the good. Because you don't want this label, and just the alsboire, you shouldn't take it. You should take it off only somach l'suda. Fine, and also you've got to be careful not to tear the letters. That's not what we're dealing with now. But then he says in the footnote there, he says lo yases this label ela achri b'tzias hapas. Really, you should do it so somach, but because of Lechem Mishna. Because if you take it away, then you're taking a sholem challah and you're taking the label off, and it's not no longer sholem. So really, you should hold the hamoitzi, and then as you're about to break it open, then you can take the label off. What?
The label's a part of the challah.
No, it's stuck on. It's like glued on.
But according to that, then the label's part of the challah. If you take it away, it's not showing anymore.
Exactly. So therefore, you should only take it away after you've cut the bread. In other words, you've got your challah, and then you make hamoitzi, and it's still on, and then you cut and you eat, and then only then you take it off.
Show that 48. Show that.
Yeah, that's a b'diavad, the 48. Yeah.
What about sometimes the plastic covered the whole challah like completely?
Mistoma, yeah, I wondered about that. Mistoma, you should take it out of the plastic and hold it.
Even if you use it.
That what you mean?
It's not considered whatever. Is this part?
Oh, I see. It's derech achila. That's it.
It's not stuck on, but it's completely wrapped.
So what's your shaila?
It's in it.
Is that you're asking us beira? You're asking a beira shaila.
Yeah.
So what, can you take away the plastic? So yeah, lechera that should be samach l'suda. What in other words, when do you want to open it? You want to, I don't know, early at Shabbos morning, early before you go to Shul. No. In other words, alsbora needs to be samach l'suda. So samach l'suda, you take away the plastic, no problem. But the question now is Lechem Mishna. But that, what you're describing is not a Lechem Mishna problem. Okay.
Can it be? Is there any problem with it being completely covered?
What do you mean?
Have a challah up and so far. So you've got one frozen one, for example.
Yeah.
Right. So we spoke about frozen. So frozen, we said there are materials to use frozen as a Lechem Mishna. Your question is, do you have to take off the silver foil, or can you? So we're going to come to it now. Really, you should be holding it. Mistoma should be touching it. Mistoma, I think. Okay, let's biyodei. So that's exactly where we're up to. Sif Cotton Gimel. Biyodei, you should hold. Oiches, the lashon mechab is oiches shtehen biyodei. So it's mashma that you're holding it. There's direct contact between the challah and your hand. So I guess that does mean to take off the silver foil. I guess. B'shas hamoitzi. When is that true? When you make the bracha. Sif Cotton Dalad. This says the Mishna Berurah. Boitzea shahilo nema lechem Mishna ele belakita. When do you need lechem Mishna? When they gathered it together, and therefore, when you're holding it before the bracha, that's when you've got the Lechem Mishna. They were noheg to cut both challahs. So sometimes you see that. Some people do that they cut through both challahs. That was the minhag of the Gan, based on this Rashba. And if you're worried, listen, I don't want to use up so many challahs on Shabbos, it's expensive. Then this is the eighth of the Mishnah Berurah. If you want to be knowing like the Gan, sorry, you basically make 3 larger challahs and 3 smaller challahs, and therefore in each suda you take a large challah and a small challah, so you haven't sort of quote unquote wasted a large challah. And then how do you do it? And you have 1 large and 1 small for each suda. However, we are knowing like the Shulchan Aruch that we only cut 1 challah. And again, that's on Friday night, it's the lower one. On Shabbos morning and on Yom Tov, even on Yom Tov night, it's the top one. Kosva Prima Godim. In Ein Lo B'Shabbos Pas Yisrael, Ki Im Pas Einam Yehudim Mutar Le'echol Mimenu. Ideally, you have Pas Yisrael, but if you haven't got Pas Yisrael, then you're allowed to use that for Lechem Mishna, for Ein Shom Oid. Okay, now, says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Cotton Hay, that the Mechab and the Ramah say that you take the lower one on Friday night. Habach Toma. Now, the Bach famously has got a problem. He is perplexed by this. The ein mavrin ala mitzvahs. The understanding is, I've got 2 props here. If you've got Lechem Mishna, here are my 2 challahs, and you've got Lechem Mishna, if you go for the lower one, you've been over the problem of ein mavrin ala mitzvahs. I've bypassed this one, which is in front of me, to take the lower one. So says the Bach, how can the Ramah say that you take the lower one on Friday night? Surely it's ein mavrin ala mitzvahs. So carries on the Mishnah Berurah. Vahataz, who by the way is the son-in-law, and no doubt was sitting at the table of his father-in-law, the Bach, I'm sure on many occasions. So the Taz, the son-in-law of the Bach, has got an easy solution. Just this is what we do. The lower one should just be a bit nearer you, so therefore there's no problem of ein mavrin ala mitzvahs. So you're holding on to the two chalas, you make the bracha, you've cut the sort of little indentation on the one you're going to use, and just the lower one should be a bit nearer you, therefore there's no problem of ein mavrin ala mitzvahs. Fine. So Nochamal, back to the Mishnah Berurah. V'hataz, where is it? V'hataz tiken zeh v'noag v'niach hatachten kar v'lav yosem eno elyon. V'nimsa shepegeh tchila b'tachton, and therefore you're encountering the lower one first. Or you put aside the top one when you make hamoitzi, and then you just sort of cut the bottom one, and therefore there's no shaila of mavrin al mitzvahs. You only cut the challah after you've made the bracha, because if you cut it too soon, then you're not making a bracha over Lechem Mishna, which are both shalim. What people do is that they just make an indentation with the challah knife. So let's say Friday night on the bottom one, or Shabbos morning, or Yom Tov night, you just do it on the top one. What I've seen people do is they make a little indentation because they're neg like that, and then after they make the bracha, they're looking for the indentation. But that's silly, because the whole reason why you're making the indentation is to get on with it. As soon as you made the bracha, you can cut, and there shouldn't be a hefsek. But if you're being mafsik by looking for the indentation, you'll just cut it wherever. Okay, let's finish off. Base. Mitzvah lifseh b'Shabbos prusa gedola shetaspik lechol hasuda v'ayin le'el siman kuf samach zayin. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you cut big pieces of challah. By the way, that's one of the reasons we said in kuf samach zayin, I think it was there, that dafka the balabayas, he can be mechabed other people to make kiddush, but he should be boitzeah. He should be the one to cut the loaves of bread. Why? Because if you're a guest at somebody's house, then you'll cut thinner slices. If you're the balabos, you'll cut kashmaka, gazunta, pieces of challahs, and that's part of Onik Shabbos. V'loi mechsi, says the Mishnah Berurah Karavson, it doesn't appear greedy that you're cutting very chunky pieces of challahs, kiven she'ena oisa kein b'chol, because this you can see is dafka l'kavod Shabbos. You wouldn't do this during the week. Vadai kavnosa shechov of hamitzvah v'rois lechol harbe, and you want to eat plenty for l'kavod Shabbos. Gimel, says the Mechaber, Ein hamasubin rishoyin litoim at sheyivtoim hapetzeah. That the person should, the people around the table should wait to eat until the boitzeah has tasted the challah. V'im yesh lifnei kol echad lechem Mishna, then yecholim litoim afal pisha adayin lo toam hu. Says the Mishnah Berurah, litoim hainu afal pisha nosan haboitzeah lifnei kol echad ve'echad eschelkei. Even though the person has cut the challah, has given out to everybody, for chanal b'siman kuf samach zayin siftes ayin sham, but really they should wait for the boitzeah to eat the bread. The ma'aser, when I do it, I just cut one slice of challah, I take from that and eat it, give to my wife, and then I cut the other slices and give to everybody else. So l'cher is never really a problem. Lechem Mishna, if each person has Lechem Mishna, Rotzolema, says the Mishnah Berurah Sifkat and Ches, in other words, the Mechaber had said, if everyone has got their own Lechem Mishna, Yecholim litzim afal pisha adayin lo toam hu. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Rotzolema, the oz afal pisha hu moitziim bebrachos Yecholim litzim kodim lo. Even though he's moitzi them in the bracha of hamoitzi, he's not being moitzi them in Lechem Mishna, because they've got two Lechem Mishna in front of each person. And in that situation, I can eat before the boitzeah, before the person who has made hamoitzi. But if every person has not got Lechem Mishna in front of them, even though they've got a piece of bread, a slice of challah, then I'm being soimech on his Lechem Mishna, so therefore I should wait for that. Okay, Dalet. Su'udazu v'shal shachris ef shel asosim b'lei pas. This Suda, you need bread. Friday night and Shabbos morning, you need challah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Rotzolema, afilu l'das ha'makilin l'kam b'sim reish sadi aleph sif heid in Suda shlishis, even though there are mekilim, when it comes to shal shuda, she'en tzorech la'asos dafka b'pas, if you're full or whatever, you don't have to use bread for such shal shudas, there is what to rely on, to have mazonos or even fruit. When it comes to Friday night meal and Shabbos morning meal, everyone agrees you need to have Lechem Mishna. Kavod Shabbos, because those are the two meals which are Me'ika Kavod Shabbos. Now, if for whatever reason there was an onus and you couldn't have the meal on Friday night, Yidcha Suda Ad L'Macha, you're doicha that Friday night meal, you push it off until Shabbos morning, that you have 3 meals in the daytime. You can do that. If one was onus and one didn't have a Friday night meal. So for example, if for whatever reason onus happened, you're in hospital or something, you make Kiddush Friday night and you didn't have Lechem Mishna there, so you have a mezonah, so this is Kiddush Mokum Suda, and then make sure you still have Shalosh Su'udas during the daytime meal. Just a quick note in 13, if for whatever reason that you made Kiddush on Friday night, but you didn't have Lechem Mishna, so you didn't go straight into the Suda. Kiddush Mokum Suda generally is an issue on Shabbos morning, not Friday night, because normally you go straight into the meal. But let's say you did that on Friday night, you're in hospital, and you needed to make Kiddush on Friday night, you need Kiddush Mokum Suda. If you didn't have any Challa, then you need to have Mazonis. To be soymech on having a revius of wine on Friday night, that we're not makel to do. Really, only that's the last resort. You shouldn't be makel to have Kiddush Mokum Suda by having another glass of wine on Friday night. Really, you should have Mazonis on Friday night to constitute a Suda for Kiddush Mokum Suda purposes. Say that. Okay.